Hey, this is Brock. There's lots of good videos on YouTube to show you how to tune a hammer dulcimer, but I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in on what I think about it. I came from a guitar background, and so I'm used to dealing with just 6 strings, and then you move into a hammer dulcimer and you've just got this plethora of strings to deal with, and it can be kind of intimidating. But I've got a few tricks that I believe are pretty good for getting a very good tuning on the instrument. One thing that you're fighting against with a hammer dulcimer is sympathetic vibrations, and I want to show you what that is right now. If I were to strike a string, just any string, any particular note, and I stop that note, you'll hear that the note continues on because that note is repeated elsewhere on the dulcimer, and any string that has that same note or harmonics of the same note are going to start ringing with it. The louder the note is, the more sympathetic vibration you get. And that's one thing that you're fighting against when you try and tune the dulcimer. So I recommend there's 2 things that will help you get a good tuning, and I'll show those to you right now. Actually, there's more than 2 things I want to show you. The first is your choice in tuning wrenches. There's essentially 2 styles. This is the gooseneck style, and this is the T style. I'm a big fan of the T style, and I'm going to tell you why. This gooseneck wrench, when you use it, it gives you more leverage, but the problem is, understand these tuning pegs are just sunk into the wood. In other words, there's nothing really holding them. And when you pull on this wrench, you're applying pressure. It just can't be avoided on that tuning peg, and as we would say in the South, that's going to eventually waller out the hole, and you're going to end up putting a larger zither pin in there, and you really don't want to fool with that. So to prolong the life of the zither pin, I use the T-handle because you're not putting so much angular pressure on it. It's just rotational pressure that you're using. Also, I find that I can get a little bit finer movement with a T-handle. So that's just my recommendation on the T-handle. Next thing you notice, I'm wearing rubber gloves, and the reason I do that is I'm going to be using my hand to mute the strings, and anytime you touch the strings, you're leaving oil behind. That's why violin players don't like you touching their strings, the part that you actually bow. And the same thing's true of guitar strings. They corrode rather quickly. The longer you can keep that sweat and perspiration off the strings, the longer the strings are going to last. So since I'm going to be touching the strings, I go ahead and wear some rubber gloves. Another thing that I use is a guitar thumb pick. You can pick this up at any music store, and that'll help you be a little bit more precise with plucking the strings. But I want to show you the technique that I use up close so that you get just the string that you want. First of all, I use a little spandex cover on the instrument when I'm not using it to keep the dust off, but I use this also when I'm tuning, like so. I'll lay it across the majority of the strings except the ones that I'm working with, and that's going to kind of keep those strings from vibrating, okay? I put the handle on the string that I want to tune, and of course you're going to be using a electronic tuner. I use a Korg. I think that's a standard. For the money, you can't beat it. But let me show you up close how I'm plucking the strings and working the wrench. Okay, like any wooden stringed instrument, a hammer dulcimer is going to need to be tuned more often if the temperature fluctuates or the humidity fluctuates. So the more you can keep those conditions constant, the less you're going to have to tune it. Once the strings are seasoned and they've been on the instrument a while, you're not going to have to tune them near as much as when the instrument's new. I find that actually the higher strings, the unwrapped steel strings, need to be tuned more often than the brass ones or the wrapped ones. I've got a definite opinion about how you tune the note. Normally the note's going to be dropped flat and you're going to have to pull it up to pitch. Now if you go past it, instead of dropping back down, I recommend that you go back below the note and then come up to it, and I want to explain why. If the tuning wrench is on this side and I pull up to the string, understand that there's friction at each of these points. Every place where the strings touch the bridge, there's going to be friction. And when you tune it up, there's going to be more tension on this side of the bridge than this side. There's going to be more tension on this side than this side. Well, If you reverse that, where there's more tension dropping down to the note, where there's more tension on the side of the note, when you hit it, that tension is going to be released. In other words, the string is going to slide across that bridge and it's going to drop your note flat. So I prefer it the other way around. So I always pull up to the note. If I go past the note, then I'm going to drop down below it and then pull up to it. Now let me show you specifically how I'm picking and tuning. I'm going to take the cloth that I covered the instrument with. It's just a piece of spandex that I had a seamstress sew some elastic on to cover it up. But I'm going to use this just to cover the strings I'm not working on right now. And just for demonstration purposes, we're going to tune this string right here. Okay, using my thumb pick, when I tune the top string, I'm going to immediately pick the string and then use the pick to dampen the bottom string. If I just pick the top, then that bottom's going to start ringing. Here it's still going. So I'm going to pick and immediately dampen the bottom one. And take a reading off the tuner. Now when I tune the bottom string, I'm just going to pick the string and then the pick is going to come to rest on the top string. And that's automatically going to dampen the top string. And if I'm getting sympathetic vibrations from other strings, I'll just use my left hand to dampen them. Oh. Then I tune the note. You see, you can get minute changes fairly easy. And I'm on it. And that one's already on it. One thing about the hammer dulcimer too, I don't get too frustrated if I can't get the tuning exactly on it like I would with a guitar, and the reason is, it actually, as long as the two strings are pretty close together, you get a kind of pleasant chorusing effect from them being slightly out of tune, and you lose that if they were exactly on it. Also with zither pins, I don't think it's not a geared mechanism like a guitar, so you can't be near as precise. So as long as I get it fairly close where the green light comes on the tuner, maybe a little bit better than that, I'm happy with it, and it sounds pretty good. Alright, I hope that helps you out.